All right, good morning, everybody. So taking a look at our trade plan here, if you guys were in the Discord at the close yesterday, this is kind of what I talked about with the open. We had to see if there was a lot of buy pressure protecting that upper P-shaped node right at the open. If there wasn't, then it's kind of turning into a P-shaped failure, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. So you don't have a ton of buy pressure here. You're actually putting in lower highs and lower lows, and we are starting to pressure that value low of yesterday, which is the value low of that P-shaped profile, which gives us a P-shaped failure. And what a P-shaped failure basically means is you tried to find higher value, it failed to do so, so then you go back to the lower value, possibly back down to those lower tails. So for today, basically what we're looking for is, can it stay below that value low at 520? If it does, then we are looking for that lower tail. If it stays above it, you can look for that rotation back into 552, and then if it stays above that 52 level, which is the value high of the P shape, then you can see that tail extension. So if we take that lower tail and kind of draw that out to the upper tail, it would probably be somewhere around that like 590 to like 600 area. So keep an eye on that for a tail extension. But for now, you have that kind of slightly bearish bias if we stay below that 520. Pretty much the exact same story on NASDAQ here. They were not able to respect that higher value, putting in lower highs and lower lows, and even failing that value low and back into the value of Monday. So if we stay below that 154, we are failing the P shape, and we should push down towards that lower value and that lower tail. One of our targets have actually already been hit, so we do have to adjust that a little bit here. So we'll just say the overnight low around like 950. And then we'll say that 842 retrace as that final target. Yeah, same exact story. We have to see how does it respond to this P-shaped value low. Is it going to respect it? Is it going to keep failing it? A little bit more bearish on NASDAQ, kind of showing a lowercase b on the open here. Maybe even like a capital B, something like that. Probably even more so a lowercase b on ES as well. But the P shape is the one that we're talking about from yesterday. The closed profile is a P shape. All right, there is the trade plan for you guys. Keep an eye on VWAP at the open here. We are responding back around VWAP here. We had a couple of beautiful VWAP tests on the pre-market. If you guys were trading the pre-market, you had a beautiful bear flag into VWAP there. It gave you a very big sell. Dropped about 20 to 30 points after that. And here is that second attempt pulling back into VWAP, but it is breaking through it so far. Keep an eye on 143 on NASDAQ and 525 on ES here. Okay, so far the initial move is bullish out of the open, but we have been seeing a lot recently. These initial moves are not to be trusted. We'll see if it can actually hold there. This was a 30-minute bull div. If you guys were trading on the pre-market, beautiful bull div there. You have a bunch of pivots. You have like 5 or 6 different pivots around this like 515 to 500 area. So beautiful buy there on the pre-market around like 7 to 8 o'clock. So right now we're kind of just playing out that buy from the bottom here. Not really seeing a reaction on VWAP on ES, a little bit of a reaction on NQ. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Future, Leo, Asparagus, Scott, Patriot. Good morning, Fernando, Banana, Scott, Julio. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, V. Good morning, Yao, Roman. Good morning, Ray. Good morning, Music, Flory, Orion, Lulu. Good morning, Scott, Larry, Peter, Abby, Morris, Panama. Good morning, Mark, Joseph, Lumir. Good morning, eBay, Anthony. Good morning, Stronger. Appreciate you guys all being here. On the trade plan, those are full session profiles. Unless it's a blue profile, then it's just the pre-market one. But most of them are the full session. No reaction on VWAP here. This is trying to recover that P-shape value. We recovered the value low. It's trying to recover back into that value high. So keep an eye on that around like 45 to 52. But if it can't stay above 52, then it's not really bullish. Good morning, Stream. Good morning, Henry. Appreciate you guys being here. You started using Addis this week. You love it. It's really good, man. Yeah, once you get used to it, it's a really good platform for sure. Another big thing about Addis compared to like NinjaTrader that I was using for many years is the speed of updates. Like Addis is just constantly doing updates. They're constantly making it better. They're adding new things. NinjaTrader would take a long ass time to fix like the smallest bugs. They would add a new thing like once a year maybe. So Addis definitely has a very active team. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys used the code when we had that discount, so I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the platform. If you guys do want to check them out, there is a referral link down below. If you sign up using that link, just let me know. I'll get you a 30-day trial. A little bit of weakness up here, which is expected, obviously. It's around that value high. If they can't stay above 35 here, it's most likely just a rotation of the current value, not of yesterday. Basically nothing on the calendar today, but we do still have continued strikes and like tensions in Iran, so possibly some random spikes here and there. But as far as the calendar goes, you just have oil at 10:30, and that's pretty much it. Volume is low when the market rebounds. Have you noticed that? Do you mean like on like the grand scheme, like on like the daily sense, or you mean like on the smaller moves? That's pretty much just standard price action. Like standard price action is the impulse is going to have the volume, the pullback is going to have the lower volume because it's mostly just profit taking. Or it's a secondary move, like people are getting in late. But the impulse is typically always going to have the volume. That's why bull flags and bear flags exist. That's the whole methodology behind the those patterns. Any type of flagging pattern. That's the thought process behind it. That's just standard market trading. It's been like that for basically forever. Oh, you're talking about comparing like the single names to the overall market. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same idea. It depends on which direction is the prevailing direction, right? If you're still like in a very obvious bull market, everything's going up, then you're probably going to get more volume on the upside than the downside. But if you're in more of like a panic selling kind of market, then you're going to have more volume on the downside. It just goes back to what I was saying. It's all about which direction is the impulse. Which direction has more aggressiveness, right? So where oil ends this week is very important. We talked about this already. With that rebound, it bounced off that gap level damn near to the penny. And we are back into that big chopping value, that distribution. So depending on how we react to this recovery of this distribution, you have a couple of major levels here. This would be like the value retrace level would be pretty much where it is right now. That's also where the VWAPs are. So somewhere around that like 90 area. But if you're taking just the price action low, the first low was right here. This was more of a trap. So we are recovering that low a little bit. So if it does continue, this could be a big move back to 100. But if we see a lot of sell pressure over the next couple of days here, this could be a giant bear flag and then going back down. Very hard to say. It's very hard to look like more than a week out on oil because of what's going on. Yeah, it's right around the 50% of the pullback as well, around 93. So like 90 to 93, very important levels over the next few days. Still failing that value high on ES, not really seeing any momentum up here. Yeah, volume is just kind of very low right now. It's pretty typical in summer months. Like summer typically has lower volume. It's not as bad as it used to be because of all the electronic trading, obviously. The 24/7 trading pretty much. But still, it's still pretty low in summer. It should pick up in the next week or two because we have a lot of earnings and whatnot. But yeah, we're like peak summer right now, like end of July into August. Trying to stay above this 35. You can see the battle on that value high. They put in a node right on that value high. So they're trying to battle it and push above it. Delta is pretty good here to the upside, not terrible. So keep an eye on the POC of yesterday around 46 and 52. Pretty strong reversal on NASDAQ as well. Keep an eye on that POC. Around 300, 350, somewhere around there. This turned into a bull div and turned into a sweep. So now you have that buy pressure from that sweep. This is exactly what I talked about with our trade plan. You have to watch that value low, the P shape. They're going to battle over this level. Because if they can protect it, it's still bullish. If they cannot protect it, you're retracing that lower tail. You had a beautiful attempt to fail it here. You failed it aggressively, very strong sell. Bear flag, failed it again, very strong sell. But then that turned into a sweep. So the secondary sell is being trapped. So these guys are being trapped here. I answered your question earlier. The profiles on the trading view are full session profiles unless they're blue. If it's blue, it's pre-market. Very stable trend so far, staying above that ADMA, not really seeing deep corrections down to that 24 just yet. Which indicator is that? You're going to have to be very specific on that question. I have a million indicators on my screen. Good morning, Bob. Well, let me ask you this, Bob. Why would you not use it, right? Like, what's the benefit of not looking at the overnight value? You know there's trading overnight. You know there's tons of action going on. Why would you just ignore it? I'm not using the heat map, Lucio. I haven't started that that video or anything yet. These indicators are my indicators. The bottom one is the Momo. The top one is the Oasis Trading Suite. I can show you the names here. Keep an eye on that trail. Losing that trail, we might start waterfalling a little bit. Yeah, Josh, the market doesn't really care that much about the Iran stuff right now. They stopped caring like months ago. There's a few impulses here and there, like when it gets really bad. But the back and forth, like constant headlines, the market just doesn't really care. So I don't think we're really moving based on any of those headlines that are coming out today. Because if we were, it would be bearish, right? Those headlines are not bullish. So if you had the argument that we are moving based on the headlines, it wouldn't really make sense because it would be going down, right? But I think the market is just showing that, yet again, it does not really care about those back and forth headlines. It's the same thing with pretty much every single war. The market cares for like the first couple of months. It reacts to like every single headline. And then after a couple of months, it just slowly stops to care. And then it reacts to like the really big headlines. Like obviously recently oil reacted to the strikes starting over again. So like this entire move down, it did not really care what was going on. But then the strikes started again. So now like the overall move is to the upside. But it still doesn't care too much about the little headlines, just the big stuff. Yeah, Bob, like I said, it's just more information. If you want more information, you watch the pre-market. If you want less information for whatever that reason is, then you would ignore the pre-market and just watch like SPY or whatever, and then you would see the gaps. But I don't really understand that line of thinking for people that just want to watch SPY and ignore the pre-market, because then they don't really know why that gap is there. They don't really know how strong of a gap it is. They're hurting themselves for no reason, basically. They're choosing to ignore a ton of information for basically no benefit. Okay, so this is what we talked about in our trade plan with the bullish scenario. If you can hold that value low, you are trying to rotate back into that value high. So keep an eye on that. ES is nearly there. You're hitting that POC. They tried to find lower value, failed both times. Second one turning into a trap and sweeping. Good morning, Tamer. Yeah, there's just no real benefit to ignoring the pre-market. Like back in the day, you could ignore it because it wasn't that strong. Like there wasn't a whole lot of action going on. But nowadays, with the market pretty much being 24/7, there is so much action on the pre-market that you don't want to ignore it, right? Here is that overnight high. Why don't I use heat map? I just don't need it. It's just another thing that I don't need to add. It doesn't have a massive benefit to my style of trading. Heat map is much more helpful for people that are like micro scalping. You're taking a lot of quick in and out trades, which I am not doing. I'm trading like 2 to 4 times a day. I'm taking big trades. I'm not really like a base hit, like tiny trade trader. I would much rather hold a trade for like 2 hours than take 10 trades in 2 hours. Good morning, Olive. A big reason is just like the mental exhaustion. It's a lot less, here's the overnight high, by the way. It's a lot less exhausting. It's a lot easier to manage a couple of trades than just constantly think of new ways to enter new ones and manage them. No, I don't think this is a news move. I think we're just recovering yesterday. The news is actually bearish today. There's still a lot of stuff going on in Iran. So we're not really reacting to the news today. Looks like the Dow sector, the Dow companies are doing a lot better today. Looks like a vertical distribution, not so much. This is actually just a pretty strong uptrend. The delta is very good. It's not giving you a ton of sell signals. A vertical distribution is when it's going up, but you constantly keep getting sell signals. You're getting sweeps, you're getting bear divs, you're getting very bearish delta, just constantly wanting to press the sell button, but it's not working. That's not the case here. The case here is the trend is very strong. The delta is very strong. The nodes are being taken out. You're not getting, like, look at that candle close. The candle closed on the high of the candle. That is a very strong close. So yeah, not really the vertical distribution just yet. It might turn into one. You want a Ringo? Joseph, it's just a playlist on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. Okay, here's our pivot to pivot move. So you had a bunch of pivots down around 515. Then you had a strong pivot around 550. And we created a range going back into that upper pivot here. Same thing on the 1 hour. Very strong pivots. 514 to 550. Not showing any weakness just yet. Still looking pretty good. Possibly a little bit of a top doji coming in. Yeah, I'm not sure what your question is, Bob. That's just fairly common trading. That's nothing special. The cash open is 9:30, so you typically always see action before the open. People just preparing for the open. The open is the most impulsive time of the day. Nothing has changed there. That's been the same for a long time. Still maintaining the daily trail support here. Daily trail at 500. In these past 4 days have tried to break through it, but they cannot do it. Still a very strong trend here. You are getting ready to retrace. There it is right there, actually. So there is the 52 level. You have fully retraced yesterday's value. You failed to stay below it, and you have retraced into that value high. So this is where we don't know, was this just a retrace, or is it actually bullish? If they start building a lot of value up here, then it's actually bullish. and it's looking for that tail extension, which is around like 600-ish. Yeah, it's almost exactly 600. So staying above 52, just watch that like 80 area and then like that 600 area. Still looking for the retrace on NASDAQ back to 355. We're back into that bullish pattern where the sellers are getting stuck on the low of the candle. And the buyers are kind of squeezing them out, pushing up. Very strong day so far. We have not lost a 5-minute low so far today. 15-minute lows being protected as well. 30-minute lows obviously being protected. Damn near protecting the 1-minute lows. You're barely losing the 1-minute lows. A little bit of a lower high on NASDAQ. There's some sell pressure coming in. Yeah, gap trades are just an overnight reversal, which is what I was saying earlier. People that look at gaps but they don't look at the overnight, they're just hurting themselves for no reason. Because they're already looking at the gap. They're already trying to trade the gap, but they don't know why it's there. So if you look at the actual overnight, you can see what's causing it and kind of how you can counter trade it, or an overnight fade like I talk about in the playbook. Like today's an overnight fade, right? We're just going against the overnight. Yeah, pretty pointless nowadays to just look at gaps and not look at the overnight. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The market is too 24/7. There's just too much going on at all hours of the day. Keep an eye on VWAP here on NASDAQ, 190 to 160. VWAP on ES is 554. You are finally showing some sell pressure here. Those sellers are no longer getting stuck on that low. They're actually creating a bottom-heavy candle. Let's see if they can stay below these 5-minute lows. You're going to try to lose the 1-minute trail. If they do, they start a waterfall back to that 5-minute. That's around 33. Definitely showing a bottom heavy candle now. Yeah, there's a lot of variables, Josh, but that could be one of the levels. Like if you have a very obvious downtrend and you want to be a seller, you would be selling the value high on like a D-shaped day, the value high on a lowercase b. You could sell the value high on a P-shape, but it's a little bit more dangerous. Why do I use 30-minute over 1 minute? It's just personal preference. I like the slower trades. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. I would rather trade one time and hold it for 2 hours than take like 10 trades on the 1 minute. Just different styles. They are protecting this pullback here. So first major pullback into the trail and the kind of short-term averages. They are being protected here. I'm like 80-20. I'm like 80% ES, 20% NASDAQ. Most of the time I'm trading ES, unless there's like a really perfect like bear flag in the VWAP or something on NASDAQ. That's not happening on ES. Yeah, it's probably like 80-20, 90-10. I actually put out a short, I think it was like last week, that talked about that, like why I like ES more. Sellers protecting this node here. They tried to bounce back above that 51. They did not allow it. You can see that bounce right here. Turning into a little bit of a waterfall if they stay below that 1 minute trail back down to 32. This is a bad place for the sellers to, or sorry, the buyers to give up. Because like I said earlier, we do not know if it's bullish yet. This still could be an entirely bearish move, obviously in the grand scheme of things, if they cannot hold above that 52, which so far they are not. So this is just a rotation of yesterday. It's not really bullish until you start finding higher value. But turning into a really big sweep of that high of day. That's a really nasty failure for the buyers. You saw how that candle kind of developed. He started out as like a, I even called it out. It started out as more of a bullish candle. the sellers were being trapped. You started pushing away, but then they quickly got exhausted. So then it turned more into a sweep. It sat there for a little bit. It turned more into a bottom heavy candle. And then now we're pushing downward because we were so bottom heavy. So that was a really nice development of that candle. It had like stages. That was basically a perfect example of why I prefer ES over NASDAQ if it was like that every day. Because that's how ES used to be, where it would give you that like slow stage by stage candle, or candle structure, whatever you want to call it. And it would just slowly show you what it was kind of doing, instead of just these very quick moves that you see on NASDAQ. But recently ES has not been like that because you have been so volatile. So if ES got back into doing that like every trade, basically, it'd be a lot easier. It's a lot slower, just kind of shows you what it wants to do. Yeah, you're trying to flash because you're not getting a lot of bearish delta here. They're kind of exhausted. Keep it on VWAP here, back down to 33 and then back down to 165. No, I don't trade Russell or Dow really at all. There's just no need to like spread myself out and trade 4 different things. Yeah, the widgets are awesome, man. I love the widgets. That was a great addition to Addis, these like widgets up here. It's doing what we're already doing. It just makes it a lot easier to just like glance over and get the information very quickly. Like right here, I wouldn't really call this like a bull div, but it's showing exhaustion because the delta is increasing, even though price is trying to go down. So like it's saying it's a bull div, but it's more so just exhaustion. Keep an eye on this rotation back down to 20. If it can lose VWAP here, you're kind of in a waterfall right now. Like I was saying, on the way up, you barely were losing 1-minute lows. You were not losing 5-minute lows. You were not losing 15-minute lows. And then you started losing the 5-minute lows. So now we're kind of waterfalling downward. Unless, obviously, like I said, if it can hold VWAP. Yeah, those are imbalances. It's called stacked imbalance on Addis. Yeah, I don't think the oil correlation will be back for a while unless it gets really crazy. Yeah, the correlation right now is non-existent. A little bit stronger on NASDAQ, but not so much on ES. We're looking for that rotation down to 20 here, guys. This is a very standard move that we talked about on our trade plan. Recovering the value low, back to the value high. Did not hold above it. So now we are back to that value low. Back down to 20. Possibly 25 if it stalls at the value low of today. NASDAQ is actually a failure to rotate because they could not finish that retrace. That'd be more so down to like 100. Okay, here's VWAP. VWAP at 34, and then we have VWAP down to 170 on NQ. These are standard VWAPs. I actually just put out a video this last weekend about never changing the VWAP settings. These are just the standard session and daily VWAPs. Okay, here's the waterfall down to the 5-minute trail. So if we lose that at 33, then we go down to 25. So far, that is a beautiful pivot to pivot. We are failing that range high there. So now we are in the structure of protecting the 5-minute highs. Earlier, we were protecting the 5-minute lows. Now we are not losing any of these 5-minute highs. Full flagging the VWAP, it could be, but this would be a bad variation because it's so aggressive. Hey, Sebastian, if you're talking about the indicators, all you have to do is send me the receipt that you used the code for. Here is my email. If you just send me the receipt that you used the code for, with your TradingView username, I'll get you added to the indicators for 60 days. And then just hold on to any receipts that you used the code for. I'm going to start grabbing those from you guys on Monday. Every single month we do a monthly raffle at the end of the month. I just take all the receipts from you guys using the code. I put them all together. I pull like 3 to 4 random winners. And they get Discord access for 1 month, 3 months, and I do tutoring prizes as well. How many accounts? Just one. One is fine. Just don't purchase the 25Ks. I don't give you guys access to the 25Ks because I do not recommend you guys trade those 25Ks right now. I think the market is way too volatile for the 25K. So as long as it's 50K or up, you are good to go. And then for the raffle, you just get more tickets if you purchase more accounts. But you don't have to purchase like 5 accounts to to get entered, obviously. Same thing goes for the 5-packs, right? So if it's a 5-pack, it's obviously 5. If it's a 5-pack of like the... Actually, do they do the 5-packs of the higher accounts? I don't remember. But if they do a 5-pack of the 100K, then obviously it would be like 10 tickets, right? You get 1 ticket per 50K, so 100K is 2 tickets, so on and so forth. Trying to bounce off this VWAP here, but it's stuck between the VWAPs, failing the daily VWAP. Bit more bullish on NASDAQ. Keep an eye on those highs. Trying to put in a higher high here. Hey, Josh, no worries, man. That is the goal, right? That's the goal, to help you guys get better as traders, protect yourselves at the bare minimum, right? The goal is not to make everyone here millionaires, but if I can help you guys lose less money, that is definitely a positive, right? And then obviously it's just a bonus if you guys can actually figure it out and be consistent and be profitable. But yeah, like I said, at the bare minimum, I want to help you guys just not get completely destroyed and lose all your money trading. Trading is very, very rough. It is a dangerous business that we are in. Try to do my best to help you guys out. Hey Josh, I'm not sure why it didn't pop up, but I appreciate you joining the membership on YouTube. You can see that ES is a little bit ahead of NASDAQ here. You can see the sell-off on ES is a bit stronger. NASDAQ trying to hold those lows, but ES is putting in a lower low, lower high. Yeah, Sebastian. So that's it's not going to show the code. So as long as you send me the date you purchased it, the account size, and there's like an invoice or like receipt number. If you send those things over, you're good to go. It should all be in that like one little receipt they send you. But yeah, it's not going to show the code. It would be nice if they added that. It'd be a lot easier. Getting a little bit of bearish absorption here. The bears are trying to push down. You can see this like 33 area. They keep getting stuck. And this is actually one of those levels that we talked about. Where's the other one? I think I deleted it, but there was another level like this, where it's kind of a big flip level. You can see all these highs right here, highs right here, highs, and then lows. So it's kind of a big flip zone between all these days, this overlap. That's a big thing you want to look out for when you are looking at overlapping value. Look for those levels that are kind of like supply and demand flips. They're trying to flip this like 30 area to be bullish, because we were really struggling on that level the last couple of days. Good morning, Bella. You can see what I mean about a bad variation of this VWAP retest. Because this was such a strong sell-off back into VWAP, it is really struggling to find the buyers off VWAP. Here is the VWAP on NASDAQ. See if they can hold on to 172. It's a very trendy day. Obviously, it's trending in kind of both directions, but on the short term, it's doing a very good job. Higher highs, higher lows, protecting the EMAs, and then protecting the 5-minute lows. And then on the way down, same exact thing. Protecting the 5-minute highs, protecting the EMAs. So you're not getting a lot of chop back and forth. On NASDAQ, you kind of are. But on ES, it's very trendy. This is what you want to see when you have large value retraces or large rotations. you want it to be very trendy, rotating from side to side. Where it gets a lot of people is when it like fails to rotate, it chops around a little bit, and then it kind of goes back like this, right? Where it's just chopping like crazy. You don't know like if these breakouts are real. But this is a very smooth side to side from the value high to the value low rotation. So keep it on that like 20 area. That's where it's trying to go. This is a trail. So yeah, that's the trailing level on the Oasis Trading Suite. You basically treat it the same way you would treat a moving average. It's just like a fancier moving average. So what I like to do is typically I'm watching this, which I am on my other monitor, on like 4 screens. So I'd have like a 1 minute, a 5 minute, a 15, a 30. And you kind of just watch like the waterfall. Like, okay, we were trending up, trending up, trending up. Okay, we started losing it. It flipped red. Now we go to the 5 minute. Okay, we started losing it. When it flips red, we go to the 15, and then so on and so forth. But if we keep going higher right now, like if we go to the 4 hour, go to the 8 hour, it's actually still in a downtrend. So this entire move up is actually just a short-term move in an overall bearish trend, which is exactly what I talked about on the trade plan when we were talking about we have to see how it responds to this level here, because this could actually just be a bearish move. If they can't find value up here, then it's just going to go right back down. And that's exactly what we're seeing, right? Because overall, you're still actually bearish. You have not found any value above that like 50 area. A little bit of a bull div coming in here if the sellers can't find more delta. Yeah, it's called a trail because it kind of trails like a moving average. It trails behind the price. Good morning, Mauser. So getting a little bit of buy pressure off VWAP on NASDAQ. This is a better variation than ES because look at how choppy it is. So it gives those buyers an opportunity to buy VWAP. Not so much on ES because it's so strong selling into VWAP. So you're seeing that buy pressure on NASDAQ a little bit more here. I don't believe so, unless it changed while I was on vacation. They should not be moving the rates at all. Right now, there's only a 30% chance for a hike, which is actually pretty significant, but not likely. If you're talking about this chart, it's market profile on the left and then volume profile on the right. I have a video titled How to Trade Market Profile if you don't know what the hell this is. That's just very confusing. Yeah, they're two different kinds. This is the old school kind, like the old school market profile, and obviously the newer one most people use volume profile nowadays. little bit of a sweep here. This is exactly what I said about that 30 level. That 30 to 35 is that same level we talked about for that level yesterday. That was acting like a very strong high. And now they're trying to flip it. When you see overlapping value like this, you always want to look for those flip levels, like where it was obviously being support, 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 and they try to turn into like resistance, right? EOC of the overlap is down around like 515-ish. A little bit lower. Okay, so like we always talk about with bull divs like this, whenever you have a bull div on momentum here, you always want to see how it reacts to that trail. So if you like take a small scalp or whatever, you're targeting the trail, you're seeing how it reacts. And then if it actually breaks that trail very easily or builds value above it, then it might be a much larger move. But short term, it's just pulling back, right? It's just a little pullback. So we have that bull div, pull back into the trail. We'll see if it wants to get a bit more momentum here. But so far, not doing much. It is holding all these pullbacks, like 30 minutes holding, 50-minute pullbacks holding, 5-minute pullbacks holding. They're trying really hard to hold on to that VWAP. They just really love this 30 area. It's that same exact area they just keep testing on every single day on that overlap. This is kind of just the chop zone on VWAP. We have to figure out which side is going to win VWAP here. Okay, starting to flip this daily VWAP. They can stay above the daily VWAP. They're trying to fail to rotate here. They really like this 30 area. They're trying to flip this 30 area. You can see a very clear sell-off the last few attempts. And now we are flipping it to the buy side. This is a failure to rotate and a failure to retrace. We did not rotate today. We did not finish the retrace of yesterday. It's kind of like a very weird bulldog where you have that double bottom and then it pops up and puts in a pullback. Keep an eye on 45 to 52 if this does continue. Very key area to see if we are actually going to find higher value. That waterfall could not lose the 5-minute trail. So lost the 1-minute trail, got pretty bearish, put in a bull div, bounced into its target right on the trail, and now we're flipping it back to being green when the 5-minute is still green. So it's implying that this is a trap. So the sellers are being trapped. Let's see if they can hold above VWAP here. That's a very good 30-minute close of the buyers, trapping the sellers on the bottom. A little bit exhausted on the top. Keep an eye on those 5-minute lows now. We'll see if they can actually trend back up here. This is a failure to rotate. Okay, so far the balance is getting pretty decent delta on the buy side. It's not entirely exhausted or anything like that. They're trying to stay above that value high of the cash profile, the morning open. This goes back to that better variation of the VWAP test on NASDAQ compared to ES. Obviously, ES ended up working more as a trap, but it was more so just the buy pressure from NASDAQ bounced off VWAP to the literal tick. And you can see the difference. This is actually a really good screenshot of what I talk about with the bad variation and the good variation. You can see that ES is just nuking downward into VWAP. Doesn't really have that choppy pattern where it's struggling to make it back to VWAP. It shows the sellers are very strong. But then on NASDAQ, you're just chopping the entire time, showing the buyers really want this to go up, or they're trying to make it go up. And then you hit VWAP. And you had a couple of VWAP tests here. You had the daily VWAP get tested a couple times there. And then you had the session VWAP, which is typically the stronger one, as we can see. So then you tested the session VWAP here, and that was the literal bottom, once again, to the tick. So just a good example of seeing that buy pressure on the way to VWAP, which made the VWAP test stronger compared to the sellers just completely nuking into VWAP. And like I said, this one ended up being a VWAP trade, but it was more of a trap trade, which kind of just bounced because of the buy pressure on NASDAQ. It's June, the end of June. And the dollar is kind of in a bull flag, so it's still bullish, but slightly trending downward. The correlations are just not tradable right now. The correlations are very weak. You have a little bit of a decent correlation on the dollar, but it's not very tradable. Small correlation on oil, mostly on NASDAQ, not very tradable. Any correlation that people are finding right now is not, it's not like very mathematical. They're kind of just making that correlation. Like right now, even the 30 minutes pretty much untradeable. You have like moments where it's a pretty good correlation. But when it does like this, where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that means you can't trust it, right? So if you can't trust it, you can't trade it. Like I said, there's small correlations there, but they are not mathematical. They are not trustworthy. And if they're not trustworthy, you can't trade them. Once again, like I was saying earlier, today is very trendy. It just trends in that direction that it's picking at the time, right? And I mean trendy in like a scalping sense. Like we picked the buy side now, so now it's trending very aggressively to the buy side. Want a typhoon? Lucky, these are my personal indicators. Oasis Trading Suite on the top and the Momo on the bottom. Not seeing any exhaustion just yet. So we are back into that value high. So if they build above this, that's where that tail extension of yesterday starts. And that goes to about 600, the very large tail extension. 77 would be a prior value level, which goes back to Thursday, July 16th. Still not finishing the retrace on NASDAQ. That goes back to 355. That looks like it's back. I think my YouTube stream is dying. I think it's back on YouTube. If you guys are watching on YouTube, for some reason my YouTube stream is dying. Not sure. Their servers are having issues. If it crashes this late in the stream, I don't bring it back, so that will just be the end of the stream. So yet again, they're finding sell pressure around that 50 area, which is basically the original overnight high and yesterday's high. They're not getting as exhausted as they did the first time. You can see they're finding a lot more delta this time. You see how exhausted they are right here? But they're already finding more delta, so a little bit stronger this time around. Yeah, that's already what my 30-minute does. The delta's on the left, the volume is on the right. Oh yeah, on the anchored one, yeah. Good morning, Jay. Yeah, time off was good, man. A little smoky from the wildfires, but wasn't too bad. Still not showing exhaustion up here. They are finding some buyers above 50, 51, 52, 3, 3.25. Not too bad. No, this was just a normal vacation. We have some friends' weddings at like the end of the year that I'll have to take some time off for. I think altogether it will probably be like, including the vacation I just took, Probably like 10 days off. Maybe like 12. I try not to miss too many trading days. Okay, like I was saying, we're not seeing that exhaustion. They're still looking pretty strong. They will get a little bit exhausted up here if they don't build some more delta. But so far, not looking too bad. Keep an eye on that 355. And then keep an eye on like 77 on ES. Hey, Abby, we'll see you tomorrow. No, I'm almost entirely ES. I try not to go like back and forth. Trend is still stable here. Not seeing a ton of sell pressure on the way up. Yeah, there's a couple of earnings this week, but most of the big stuff is next week. This is kind of like the appetizer for like the big earnings that is happening over the next couple of weeks. Actually, next week and then the week after, very big earnings. But yeah, I think today you have a couple. I think it's like Google and something else. Yeah, a lot of ones happening next week, especially with the smaller tech companies as well. But all right, guys, we are going to call it here. So far today, if you guys are coming in late, pretty standard. We had a lot of rotations happening of yesterday's value. It looked like we were going to sell off very hard from that value high and then go back down towards that value low, possibly the low of day, but actually ended up failing to rotate. So failure to rotate here, back into that value high, so very bullish move. If it can stay above that value high, you are looking for that tail extension back into like 600, maybe 75, somewhere around there. If a ton of sell pressure comes in, you get back below the 50s, then we're going to try yet again for that rotation back down to 20. Okay, so keep a close eye on how we react to that 50 level. Same thing on NASDAQ here. Keep a close eye on how we react to that 55 area. If it stays above it, you have the tail extension to the upside, back into like 500, maybe back into that rollover gap. That same magnet we've been talking about for like months now at 688. Keep an eye on that. But staying below 55, we are just rotating right back down to around that 100 to 150. Okay, so not seeing a ton of buy pressure on NASDAQ into that value high just yet. And then as we just said, going into the close, watch out for Google. Google and a few other companies have some earnings coming out later today, obviously at the close. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll see how those earnings come out. It will probably obviously impact the tech companies a little bit. Then we have more earnings later in the week and then really big earnings the next couple of weeks. But all right, guys, if you enjoy the stream, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW on Apex. I believe you still get that 90% off. I think they ended the very cheap 50K deal, but I think the 90% off is still going. You can check out Addis. There's a free trial down below. If you want to check out Discord, that is down below as well. If you guys are in Discord, I'll see you guys there. We'll be streaming in there for the rest of the day. If you guys are not in Discord, I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time as always. Peace, everybody.